Hi, Spatica. It's nice to
Hi
meet you.
Veda, hi, nice to meet you.
And how are you today?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm good. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you today about your life as a theater artist and especially your experience with border crossings and working with Michael.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Yeah, it's nice to relive that experience.
So, could you please state your full name and where you're from?
I'm Spatica Ramanujam and I'm from Bangalore, India.
And could you please describe yourself as you are right now?
I am 5 feet 7 inches tall. I'm South Asian, in my mid 40s.
Great. And has Bangalore always been home?
Yes, I mean, I've been in and out of Bangalore, but it's always been my base. Yeah.
And what languages do you speak?
English, of course, and then Kannada, because I live in Bangalore. Well, lots of people live in Bangalore and don't speak Kannada, but I do because schooling and all that happen in Bangalore. So, Tamil and Hindi. So, English, Kannada, Tamil, Hindi.
And do you perform in these languages as well?
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, diving right into it, I guess.
Yeah.
How did you get into performance and theater? Is your educational background connected to theater in any way?
Uh, it wasn't connected to theater when I started doing theater. I later on realized that it's more than just a hobby or something, that it's something I seriously want to pursue. So then later on in life, I went to theater school in London, and I think I took a significant step towards theater training and things like that. I started when I was 15 in a professional theater group in Bangalore, with a professional theatre group in Bangalore called Bangalore Little Theatre. I mean, English theatre was at a very exciting, nascent to amateur-ish kind of stage at that time in Bangalore. So it was a very exciting and interesting time to be part of English theatre. Yeah. So yeah, that's how I started when I was 15. Yeah.
Do you remember what your first production was?
Oh God, yeah. So as I was saying, I mean, it was the time when this was like early 90s, right? 95, when Indian English playwriting was being discovered and celebrated. So it was a Indian play, uh, very very dense and intense play, and that's the play that I first did when I was 15. It was a play called Rakt Pushp by this playwright called Mahesh L. Kunchwar. Very very like very gut wrenching, the second play of his that I did was Don't Call It Suicide. It was yeah, very intense. So this mystically, coincidentally, whatever you want to call it, was uh, also the role was for a 15-year-old girl, and it just, I just happened to meet the director at the right time, and I just got cast in this play. And it was like my first play per se, in that sense, was a public ticketed show. It wasn't a college production, it wasn't a soft landing in any way. Yeah.
And you are a comedian as well, right?
Yeah, that's a recent phenomena.
And how did you get into comedy?
Oh, okay. I mean, one did the odd mimicry and things like that in college and um, in in my workplace and stuff like that. Uh, I, I think the Indian reference, at least the starting reference to comedy is mimicry. I mean, so I used to do a lot of mimicry, and then people who always think, "Oh, must do comedy, you must do comedy," but one never paid heed to it until actually, I think Michael actually in reorientations said, I don't know, he spotted, I think he picked up, he's so good at spotting what are people's strengths, unbeknownst even to me, in that sense. So there's this role in the play where he said, "You're this, be this, Spatica, just be this woman on the plane that talks to Sarah. Sarah's the other actor. I mean, she plays the role of this woman who's coming to India on her secondment." And I said, "Okay, Michael, what do you want me to say? I mean, what should be?" He said his only direction was just start talking, just never stop talking, just don't stop talking. So I just went. I sat next to Sarah in the scene, and that's it. It just it's like this other woman lived in me that I didn't even know about. And I play this woman on the plane with a baby. Um, yeah, and I think that's how I think that if I would trace the origin of doing comedy on stage, I think it would be that role. So thanks, Michael. And Of late, I was like so touched also because he made a comment on some comedy video saying, "I knew you were always made for comedy." So I was like, "Oh my God, thanks, Michael." So yeah. That's comedy in theater. It started with reorientations, and then with one of the actors from reorientations, uh, we did a devised play which was completely comedy and satire. So that was comedy in theater. Stand up comedy per se has been a recent phenomenon. It's been like maybe 2 years now. Yeah.
And aside from the obvious differences, between comedy as part of theater and actual
Yeah.
stand-up, how do
Yeah.
you see the two experiences as being different?
Um, I mean, I'm by no stretch of imagination an experienced stand-up comedian, but well, a little bit. But the I think the first thing that strikes to me is the writing, right? Writing for stand-up comedy, only stand-up comedy, writing comedy in theater are very different, obviously. In stand-up, you are bound by the frame of setup, punchline, tag, turn. There's that. Um, Although truth be told, I still can't wrap my head around it. I just write jokes. So, but there's a fixed format to that. I think in theater you can run and play a little bit more, right? Because you have so much more leeway to your explicit purpose, even if you're doing comedy in theater, is not only to make people laugh. They don't have to be laughing with every punchline, or that's not the unsaid contract with the audience in theater, right? People don't come to the theater to say, "Oh, let's see how funny she is," because this is a comedy play. There is still a different agreement with the audience. They're still willing to stay and go with you on an emotional journey. They're willing to follow story. And there is that unsaid expectation in theater, right? That I'm here to experience a story or a performance or whatever. And comedy is one of those things that will unfold in the play. Whereas in stand up, it's like, yeah, okay, let's go. I'm here to laugh and see how funny you are. That's the only thing in stand up, right? So, yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I
And
think no, no. I'm just thinking. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
aside from your conversation with the character Sarah, I think you'd said in reorientations.
The actor, Sarah's the actor. I forget what her character's name is. Anyway,
So, aside from that conversation where you essentially kind of just came up with something, on the spot,
yeah.
was there any other were there any other instances in the script where you could sort of, bring your um, knack for comedy to the play, or was it more serious?
Uh, the what should I say? I think the other role was this journalist who interviews Sarah. The situation in that is more ironic. It's more, we often say that the only difference in comedy and tragedy is the timing. It's the timing with which you play it. That situation, it's a very, like, it's horrible. Like, it's a the context of it is very, it's very classist, it's very racist, it's very but yeah, but there's no, the what should I say, the journalist, i.e. me, who's asking the questions, is I play it up for effect. So in that sense it's a little comic, but it's not ha 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 so sweet or whatever comic. It's like, oh my god, this is making my stomach churn kind of comic. So it's like grotesque in that sense. So that way it's interesting because I think there were too many layers to explore even in the comedy range in that play in that sense. Yeah.
Okay. So, tell me a little bit more about reorientations itself, like what the play was essentially structured around.
Oh wow. So it was a devised performance. I came into it after they already had they'd done some, already got some headway, got somewhere with it. Uh, I think they'd done workshopping in China already. They'd done I think a showing already. Um, and then so when I came in, we were devising. There's different stories from so the set of actors from Sweden who are doing, who are there to perform Miss Julie. Then there's the Chinese actors who are doing their thing. Their lives unfold on stage because they are the ones who are working with this, who have brought the Swedish actors to China. And then there's the Indian actors. I mean, so it's like an ensemble. Um, of different things happening with different, and then there's the British actors, of course, and different things are happening simultaneously, sometimes seemingly like they have nothing to do with each other, but in true I would say Michael style, they all come together. Like you start seeing connections as the audience, which is not very apparent, but then you are like, oh wow, things are, this scene is speaking to that, and that thing is affecting this, and this thing is um, which I think was what Michael also wanted. So there is narrative, there is story, but there is also this undercurrent of how we our lives affect each other across the globe in ways that we can't even imagine, while we seem to be just carrying on with our life, you know. And we can see that, I think we can see that more than ever in the geopolitical situation now. And I think that's what Michael was trying to mirror. Uh, this was a wonderful artistic experiment of how that's mirrored on stage, I think. Yeah. So that's what reorientations was in many ways.
And what did it mean for you to work on this play?
Um, I mean, it was fantastic because I was out of theatre school. I was out of a physical theatre school where we did a lot of devised work. We were taught devising. We were working with devising. So one couldn't have asked for anything better to, after theatre school, learning device theatre, to be working with a director and a huge ensemble cast in device theatre. So this was just brilliant, and it just took it just brought together all my learning. It helped me put it into a professional setting. uh, yeah, and even in theatre school, we worked with people from different parts of the world. In reorientations, it was the same thing. Um, in one sense, it was much easier. It was much less rigorous and much less demanding. So it than theatre school. Of course, when you go to theatre school, they're packing in a lot, so it's very intense. But here we had one task, and which is to make this play. So with proper rehearsal schedule, enough time, you know. So that was nice.
And what were the two roles that you played exactly? One was the journalist, and the other,
Yeah.
the character
Other
on the
was
plane
the
was.
woman on the plane, and I think I also played one of the ensemble movement. I think that everyone, few of us doubled up, I think, as that also. Yeah. So I think three rules.
And what is it? What was it like to, um, you know, develop these characters for you?
I was just having zillion fun. It I don't know how else to say it. I was having a lot of fun because I mean, Michael basically said, "This is your playground. Have fun, play." So, uh, yeah, and scenes were developed by us. Uh, Michael was largely kind of facilitating, giving overall shape. Just, I think, just how you would want a director who's working with devising, right? So it was collaborative, it was fun, it was creatively exciting. Yeah, just brilliant.
And did you do any sort of like specific like research or anything into the
Yeah,
characters?
yeah, we did, and more into the situation. Like, I think because we had to get the Indian context right. It was there was a very particular setting about the story for Sarah's character unfolding in India for the tsunami relief work that had happened around Pondicherry and all of that. And I also kind of had to make sure Radha Krishna, who is my fellow actor, and Michael were also able to kind of really uh, communicate very well. Also, because Radhakrishna is mostly comfortable in Kannada, so that there was that. That was a role that I wasn't playing on stage but off stage, which was also being sort of like the intermediate communication person between them. So that research also of in terms of through Yakshagana, uh, what does Raja Krishna want to explore through his movement? How does that speak to the play? Uh, Etc., etc. So that level of also the research of the form and everything. Of course, most of it Radhakrishna was doing, but in terms of um, seeing how he wanted to integrate that with his character's inner world. Who is this person who has lost home and livelihood for the tsunami? So different kinds of research, not just, oh, is it the right time? Are we telling the right story? But this kind of research as well. We had to kind of be as authentic and truthful as possible. Yeah.
You mentioned Yakshagana. Could you elaborate a little bit about what exactly that is?
Yakshagana is a Karnataka folk form, uh, and it's a very rich tradition in Karnataka. It integrates music, uh, movement, dance, dialogue, theater. It's folk theater, and uh, a lot of very revered and wonderful Yakshagana artists come from Udupi, which is the Karnataka coast, that belt. So does Radhakrishna, who's a fantastic. I mean, you couldn't ask for a better co-actor and um, artist than him. Who's so beautifully steeped in this art form and who brings so much richness on stage because of this form. Yeah.
So the team sounds quite multicultural.
Yes.
And how did you feel to be working in such a team?
It was good. Like I said, it felt like an extension of theatre school because in theatre school, it was even more difficult actually in theatre school because some of them would not even speak a word of English, and you had to devise shows with them. At least in reorientations, people spoke English, so there was some way of some common ground of communication. It was interesting to see what ideas of acting and stage each performer brings from their reference of their country, right? The Chinese have their way of approaching character and scene, and the Brits have their way. Although Radhakrishna and me are from India, we have different, very different experiences of stage and relationship to stage and relationship to character. So even within the two of us in India, it was multicultural in that sense, right? I would imagine that we are as diverse as any two other people from any other countries. Yeah, so I think it was yeah, and of course the Swedes who come from their tradition. So yeah, I think everybody's ability to communicate beneath language, right? Through gesture, through understanding, through or what is the different level of listening, deep respect and sensitivity to each other's artistic journeys. I think it actually made difference our strength, I would say. The multiculturalism off stage, I think, helped really reflected on stage. So much of what was off stage was actually put on stage, no? So, yeah.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
And this play you had performed in London and Sweden, is that right?
and China also.
and China. So how what was it like to perform for such different foreign audiences?
Um, China was particularly a little bit intense. Um, I think there was a lot of, I mean, I thought Indian audiences are, a little bit distracted, a little bit, some phone will ring somewhere, despite saying, please switch off your phone or whatever. China, it was more like you could hear people munching and eating and all of that. But I think, uh, after, if you thought they were not with you, you were mistaken, because I think after the performance, I think many of them spoke to us, many of them engaged with us. I think Michael would be better to comment on this in terms of the kind of discussions that ensued post shows in different countries. uh, I think was quite telling, actually. And I think Sweden, especially, I think, um, because after that also I did a show with, I told you I developed the show with the other colleague from Reorientations, and we did a tour of Sweden as well. I think the Swedish audiences were very, very, very gratifying, because I think they are a very reflective audience. At least this was my experience, in terms of uh, having the, like, the show wasn't being kind to any culture, right? There were all sorts of things unfolding on stage which were not particularly flattering to anyone. I think the Swedish audiences, what's very refreshing is, their ability to look inward, their ability to reflect, their ability to hold public dialogue with a great deal of respect, hold differences, um, in a conduct public debate in a civil manner. I think, which is increasingly becoming rare nowadays. What with social media and cancel culture, I think. But that was very interesting. That after the show, people would come, they would want to understand, they would want to engage, they'd be curious. There was a good amount of intellectual curiosity about what's going on. Uh, and it, yeah, I think some very interesting, I can't remember any, but some good discussions I know happened. I know I went home thinking, wow, some rich exchange has occurred today. So that was my experience with Swedish audiences, for sure. Likewise in London, um, I think. London, you still had a diaspora, I think, of people. No, like, it's not. It's such a cultural melting pot. Um, yeah, that's what I couldn't recall.
And how did the audiences like in general respond to um, the very specific cultural elements? For example, like you'd mentioned, the use of the yakshagana for
Yeah,
storytelling, or like
yeah.
the any and some sort of geopolitical nuance.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. I mean, how did they respond? I wouldn't know, because these were very the scenes were very specific. Ritual or something belonging to a culture unfolded, were very, very serious, intense scenes where something was shifting majorly for the character. There was a resolution of something, or there was a dealing with grief, or so. I think I would like to imagine that maybe one didn't understand, as the audience, this particular ritual that this particular character was performing, or didn't understand this particular gesture of the yakshagana that Radha Krishna was performing, but got the sentiment and the emotion of it. I think this is a universality of theater, of ritual, that something that's very specifically rooted can have universal resonance, right? That's the beauty of stage. That the space that space that you're holding between the performer and the audience, it can be so charged, you know. Although I mean the kind of, I think this is what Michael was going for, which I think really one could sense, I feel, standing in the side wings, I remember with these scenes, I think Michael was going for this, that there's a different kind of meaning making that happens when uh, when it's not about intellectually understanding what's going on stage, but actually feeling and letting yourself go on that journey as an audience. And I think Michael really managed to achieve this, with this show. Like meaning making takes on a different meaning in the theater, you know.
And how did, I mean, now that we've talked about how the actual audience responded, how did the press receive this production in, across the three places? Did you agree
By
with
and
what
large,
was?
we got good reviews. I think so. Uh, Yeah, I think we did. I think everyone was particularly concerned about one review in London, in anticipation of this one review in London. Uh, can't remember, but it wasn't, I don't know if it was particularly flattering, but it was not particularly like, oh, this play is bad. I don't think it was like that either. Uh, I think I would put it down to maybe it was lukewarm. I don't know. I think it's also the time, right? Like when did we open in London? 2010, 2011, versus now. Like so much has happened, like in the world and life, that uh, what kind of stuff gets put on stage. I think maybe for that time it was new and different also, this kind of work. So I don't think there was any past reference also for the press to say to have these parameters on how they're assessing the show, in that sense. But by and large, I think it was okay. Yeah.
Do you think that if the play had been put on now, it would have been received differently?
I most certainly would think so. I could be wrong, but my suspicion is yes, because simply because so much more experimental work has happened, so much more cross-cultural work has happened, uh, so much more theater of looking beyond language and text, right? That kind of theater has happened so much more. I think, yeah, I think it might be received in a very different way now.
Understood. And of course, there's different nationalities coming together um, in this play. So,
Yeah.
was there a specific role that language, or rather languages, played in this production?
Yeah, there were all languages. There was, what did we have? Even the poster said, I think, how many languages? There was Mandarin, of course, there was Swedish, there was Kannada, there was Hindi, there was English. Did I speak a little bit of Tamil? I'm not sure. Yeah, all languages. All of these languages were on stage.
So, I mean, how was that experience of, for you to I mean, assuming that you weren't proficient in Mandarin or Swedish, as a, Kannada, Hindi, English speaker to sort of interact with the characters who were speaking different
Yeah.
languages?
So my character didn't have any interaction with any of the Chinese characters. Uh, trying to think the Swedes. No. Largely, our scenes were with the British actors. Um, yeah. Having said that, there is a character that Radhakrishna plays, where there's this Brit woman who's kind of volunteering and taking care of him and whatever. So there's that little language thing that happens between them, where she's talking in English and he's replying in Kannada, and I'm there as a journalist in Hindi, and there's this just the situation that's exploding, where I think this is the magic of theater, because you, although you might not, or maybe this, I get it because I'm Indian. Although you might not understand all the languages, you see how language becomes a source of power as well. I think this is another one of like, wow, Michael, I don't know how you managed to do this. But this is another layer in the play, I think, that came through how language is power, right? I mean, and of course, there were funny instances as well. I mean, although I didn't have scenes with the Chinese, as I told you, there's this whole, I think it actually happened with Chi and with Mia, where she says, "Oh, you don't have IKEA, you have IKEA in Sweden, or you don't have." He says, "I care. You care for what? You care for man? You care for woman?" So I think this joke happened off stage, which I think they managed to keep on stage, or I don't know what. But these kind of wordplay things that the meeting of two different languages and people allows you to do. So that also happened. Yeah.
And I mean, going back to what you'd said before, where, Michael's direction was basically to improvise your um,
Yeah.
monologue, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
Did you or did any of the cast actually improvise live on stage?
Live, I'm sure we did. Pretty sure we did. Uh, I think one of the actors whose name shall not be taken, but I think he forgot his scene entry or went in late, or I think he just went and just blurred his way through a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I'm sure because I think as a journalist, I broadly had things that I needed to say. I had to hit those important questions, but I think how I would reach there, it would probably differ slightly from show to show. And of course, Indian woman with a baby on the plane, of course, every show just saying all sorts of crap in improvised way. I was just going and having fun. I wouldn't even remember what I said in the previous show. But yeah, there would be those one or two. Michael would be like, whatever else you say, make sure you ask those, one or two questions to Sarah, like, oh, do you want me to find a man for you? You're so pretty, whatever, whatever. Uh, but I think I would talk all sorts. Like one, I think one show although I don't wear gold. I think I was this one show where I was talking to her about gold prices in India or something. It's just like explosive. Yeah. So lots of improv happened. Yeah, yeah, yeah. At least from my side.
And how did it feel for you personally, or, how does it feel to play very distinct characters within the same context or space?
I'm very used to it because this is devised work. It's I think when you work enough on kind of sculpting your character and being very true to what intention or action or whatever has to be communicated to the audience, then it's very easy to switch from one to the other. But you've got to be uh, yeah, but we rehearsed like shit for that. I mean, like, I had quick changes like crazy, like quickly out of from sari into something else, and then back into salwar kurta for journalist, and then again, that was a bit costume change was a bit manic, uh, but that's the fun part of it as well. It's just at the end of the show, you're like, but you're satisfied. Yeah.
And if you were to say, what is your, most cherished or favorite memory of the reorientations experience, or just generally working with border crossings and Michael?
This is really vain, okay, but I have to say this because this is the first thing that comes to my mind. Okay, can I say two things?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so the first thing was my sheer surprise in China, in Shanghai. The green room had it had a camera where you could see the stage, you know. And before the show, we're all getting ready and, whatever. People are in various stages of makeup, whatever. And then, I just happen to look up at the camera and I see on stage two Chinese women uh, taking a zillion selfies of them on stage, on an empty stage. I was like, oh, this I have never seen in my life. That was a what moment, and I was very amused. And then everyone, I think few of us I just called people. I was like, guys, look, 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 look at this, and I think we all had a good laugh about that. Found it very strange. And then the other very sweet memory was, I think it really touched us both a lot. Bjorn, who's the Swedish actor, with whom I went on to do the Indo-Swedish collaboration as well, who's till date a dear friend. I mean, we even spoke this morning. Anyway, so both of us were walking. We'd reached the theater, we'd reached Soho, and we were walking for lunch or after lunch, something. There was a break, basically. And Bjorn and me were walking on, I think Oxford Street. And there was this guy who ran up to us and he pointed to H&M and he said, I work there. It's my shift time is about to get over, but I just wanted to tell you guys, I saw your show yesterday and I absolutely loved it. Okay, bye. I need to go now. And he just ran back. And Bjorn and me just looked at each other and we were like, how amazing. Yeah, that was like, yeah, these were things what I remember.
And would you say that your, I mean, or how rather, has your time with border crossings impacted your journey as both a person and as a theater artist?
Wow. Very difficult question to answer because they both are so linked, Like, I think it really, I mean, it would be no exaggeration to say that it really shaped me as an artist. It was for two reasons. One, because of the nature of the project, and two, because of the timing of my own life. In the juncture at which I did the show, which was right out of theater school and doing the show. and just the lifelong collaboration that happened, totally unplanned, with Bjorn. After, I mean, I met Bjorn in reorientations, you know. um, and I think when I think of Michael as a director, his ability to hold these bunch of crazy, so many people ensemble cast, shape us into something respectable to show an audience. I think he was just brilliant. I mean, what a brilliant mind, to kind of be able to get us all aligned on this vision that he had, while allowing us to, for want of a better phrase, be who we are, you know. Um, which is not to say that he didn't nudge us or push us, because a good director should do that. Uh, because nothing good can come out of anyone being in their comfort zone. Right. So for me, as a theater artist, this was a big takeaway, that theater can happen not with stuff you're comfortable. You have to challenge your. There's always pushing the envelope. That's an important part of it. And I think Michael taught me that a lot, in just the way that he was, and the way that he would handle a rehearsal room. I think for me, also a very big learning, because I did some direction. I did direct a show and all that. I think a lot of the way Michael worked informed me as a director in terms of just sheer professionalism, keeping time. I mean, you know how things are in India. Uh, so, like, how to work with devising as a director versus, because being an actor and devising, being a director, having to work with actors who are devising, two different, the chalk and cheese. How to get the best out of actors, in the devising process. I think a lot of what Michael did subliminally kind of stayed with me in that sense. He was a mentor in many ways. Simply because of the stage in life I was out of theater school, and here was somebody I was getting to work with professionally. I learned a lot. So, very, very, very important, defining, shape shifting experience, reorientations will always be a very important landmark for me in my personal and artistic journey.